Hello, my name is David Jones. I'm the Managing Director for Robert Half across Asia Pacific. I'd like to welcome you to our CFO Masters Series. Throughout this series, we've been able to gain unprecedented access to some of the most influential CFOs across the region. The series will help to uncover what these people's main leadership qualities are, how they got to where they are in their careers, and what keeps them driving forward. I hope you enjoy the CFO Masters Series.
Hi, and welcome to the Robert Half CFO Masters Series. In this episode, we talk to Gillian Larkins, a member of the Global Accounting Alliance through the Institute of Chartered Accountants in New Zealand and CFO of Westpac's Institutional Bank. Prior to senior roles in the Australian and New Zealand banking industry, Gillian worked in both business and professional roles for Woolworths, KPMG, Morgan Stanley, NatWest and Ernst & Young. Gillian's career is a great example of how a professional accountant can make that transition from practice to the business environment. It is with great pleasure that I introduce Gillian and this episode of the CFO Masters Series.
Gillian Larkins, welcome to the CFO Masters Series.
Thank you.
Gillian, you're the Chief Financial Officer for the Westpac Institutional Bank, which is one of the largest institutional banks in Australia. Do you see yourself as a trailblazer for women in the financial profession?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I've joined an institution and I've joined a bank where there are many female peers to myself, and I just feel thankful that I can actually carry out my career in such an environment. I feel very fortunate.
Women are still dramatically underrepresented in senior positions in the workplace, and just over 8% of the directors of Australia's top 200 listed companies are women, although overall women make up nearly 50% of the total workforce. As one of the only female listed companies CFOs in the country, why do you think there aren't more women at a senior level?
I think women have choices, and I think all through their lives they make those choices. And there are some very capable women out there who just choose for a certain time and period in their life to take time out and care for their personal life and their family. But then there's no doubt that I feel then they come back into the workforce, but they might actually view their time in the corporate world. That's probably not where they're interested anymore, and they actually may look to more alternative roles. But I think you find people coming back in their 40s after caring for children.
The news is not all bad for women in the banking and finance industry, and indeed your CEO, Gail Kelly, has broken well and truly through the glass ceiling. What more needs to be done to ensure that women are better represented on the boards and executive teams of Australian listed companies?
I don't know whether I have the answer for that. A little bit of history around me is I've always had female role models in every company that I worked for. In my prior role, where I was CFO for Citi in Australia and New Zealand, there was a female CFO in New York, Sally Krawcheck, who was very young when she was first appointed into that role. She was 37. And for me to have her in the first instance, who I did know as well, that to me just showed that anyone could do it. Then when I walked to Westpac, I shouldn't say it like that, but when I moved to Westpac, Gail Kelly was there. So I feel I've always been very fortunate to have female role models around me, and I know if they can do it, I can do it. So what does that mean about directorships and that sort of thing? I just believe that if women want it, they can do it, but it takes a certain amount of resilience, courage, and the ability to take risks. And men might have more of a penchant for doing that.
You're a chartered accountant with an MBA, a commerce degree and a postgraduate diploma. How important are tertiary and postgraduate qualifications to finance professionals, both in terms of day-to-day performance in a role and for career progression?
Interesting question, just purely because I actually think aptitude is the most important thing as a professional. And I have had people that I've both worked with and who have worked for me who haven't had tertiary education and have turned out to be the most loyal, honest, trustworthy individuals. And some of them far outweigh the doctorates or whatever else I might have in the team. However, having said that, what tertiary education gives you is a door to get into places, And two, you never have to worry. Having got the tertiary education, no one is ever going to question why you were in that role. And that's what my education has given me, is that no one has ever questioned why I'm in the role because I'm a chartered accountant with an MBA. And that's the thing that I stress to young people coming through. If you get through the hard years of tertiary education, it's worth its weight in gold. You can never look back, and you never have to go back, reverse the clock and re-educate yourself in your mid-40s. So I think education is very important for that alone.
At what stage of your career did you set your sights on the top finance job, and did you decide early on to head for the top, or has it simply been a matter of a steady career progression?
I have never focused on being at the top, never focused. I've always focused on the job, and the next job that I took was always about the challenge and the fun that I would have with that job. Just fortunately, that has allowed me to go into roles where I've been able to manage people and be in a position where I just love general management. I've found through my career I've gone from an accounting professional to a general manager, and I just feel completely privileged that I'm able to do it. Hierarchy has never been important to me, and you'll probably very rarely find that I use the word CFO or managing director. I just love managing people, and I've been lucky enough to find myself in that position.
And what are the biggest challenges that you face as CFO, and what strategies do you use to overcome them?
You're perpetually worried because you don't know everything. And certainly working in the institutional bank space, because it's all about risk and reward and it changes every day through trading activity on the day, you don't know what you don't know. So it's very important to have a solid control framework in place. It's very important to employ the right head of finances that support you, because they're there with the business day in, day out, and they should be alert to any issues. But and the third thing is I think resilience comes into play too. When you've had some experience being there before, every issue is resolvable. I think that's what I've found through experience, and it's to keep that resilience in place. You know, nothing is insurmountable. We can get on top of it if you've got the right team around you.
We're seeing increasingly that CFOs are being asked to contribute more to organisational strategy. How do you make sure that you have the knowledge required in order for you to make that contribution?
You just have to be aware, continuously reading, continuously talking to your colleagues, talking to your mentors, talking to your bosses. I feel very privileged. My two bosses are the CFO of Westpac and the CEO of the institutional bank, who have been around a number of years, who have had experience about crisis and how to come out of it. They were both there in the early 90s when Westpac was going through a very tough time. They got themselves out of that, and I feel very privileged to be working for people that understand that, and I'm learning a lot through that. So how do I contribute to the strategy or through my role? Well, obviously with the numbers, but also just making sure that our vision is still right, our strategic pillars that support that vision, that they can actually be measured and hold people accountable to any initiatives that support those objectives in the vision. So that's my role as a CFO.
Your clients are among some of the biggest institutions in the country, including, for instance, the entire New South Wales government. Do you find that having such large and powerful clients places more pressure on you as the CFO?
No, no different to a small client, or absolutely not. It's all about customer service at every level. It doesn't make a difference as to the size of the business. Absolutely not.
Maintaining a positive work-life balance is notoriously difficult once you make the ranks of very senior management. But all the research shows that having interest outside work makes you a better manager. How do you make sure that you strike the right balance?
I don't know whether I have. I'm still juggling that. So I have two children, 5.5 and 3, and my life is work and kids. But I get great delight through that, and I've chosen to have that life. So do I have time for a tennis match now and then? Not really. Do I have time to shop anymore? No, which I absolutely adored before I had kids. But having said that, I feel I've got the best life because I have children and I'm able to still have a career. And I have a partner who's fully supportive and lends 50-50 to the relationship with regards to the kids. So I don't really know the answer to that. I feel I have, as much as I can, a pretty well-rounded life.
And do you try to make sure that your team does something similar?
Yep. I think it helps that I have that life, and I must say when I was CFO at Citi and I'm CFO at the institutional bank at Westpac, that each of my heads of finance, the majority of them also have children around the same age or a bit older, and everyone is juggling. So it means that it's a lot easier for them to come to me when they need days off, because they know that sometimes I'm in that position. So we set everyone up at home, they can work from home. What I'm most interested in is output. So I think that at both institutions, I actually think that that's actually been a benefit for me being in my position, because the heads of finance and then their directs don't feel like it's a bad thing to ask for a day off if their kids are sick or whatever else, because we're all juggling, male and female.
Are you a good networker? And how important is networking to a financial professional?
I actually think I was a better networker before I had kids. In fact, I was a very good networker. Unfortunately, that does preclude you from the networking that you should necessarily do. Having said that, yeah, it's pretty important. But at the end of the day, if you don't perform in your job, no networking is going to help you there. So I still believe I might have the female orientation, that you have to do the right thing by your employer. I probably lean myself more to that than actually going out and selling myself, because I honestly think the evidence is back in what you produce in your job. So a little bit of networking goes a long way, but you also still have to do your job right.
What attracted you to a career in banking and finance?
By default, I fell into it. So trained at Ernst & Young in New Zealand, got my chartered accountancy, flew the coop, went to London, got a job with Morgan Stanley, changed my world. Enjoyed it, and that really sort of indented me into the banking culture.
Given your qualifications and experience, you could find yourself on the executive team in many different industries in Australia. Do you see yourself staying in banking, or would you consider moving to an industrial or commercial employer?
Well, prior to my job at Citi, I was actually strategic planning manager at Woolworths. I love retail. The reason that I moved was because I was offered the CFO role at Citi, so obviously it was a kick up. But I loved Woolworths and I loved retailing, and I do miss that. As much as it's not as sexy and it may not be as, technical, it's actually a lot of fun. And I do view myself as moving out of banking into another industry later on in my career. I love that.
Do you have a mentor?
I've had a few mentors all through my career at certain junctures, and they have been male, only through that's what happened. I found that the mentors, I probably have 3 that I will talk to, but they're people who haven't actually been given to me as a mentor. They've been relationships that have naturally developed through my career that I found to be of great value. They're very important because you question everything you do. Everyone questions what they do every single minute of the day. And sometimes you just need that reassurance, or you need to just stretch a few things with them and tease things out to see whether you're on the right track or not. And because I have informal mentors, they haven't been thrown or thrust upon me. They're people that I trust, and I trust their judgment. And I found them to be very integral to my career.
Gillian Larkins, thanks for joining us today.
It's a pleasure.
In the next episode of the CFO Masters Series, I speak with Alan Gorkroger, the CFO of the CSIRO.